So first, just audio production. What is audio production? Right? We know that out of this comes just your MP3 or CD or album. Right? So we know that out of this comes MP3, just or wave, right? Or AIFF. Music comes out, right? Shibisha. But jigga. The ega, song writing. The arga, engineer. Hey, no. Yo, there he is. What's up, bro?
Good.
You good?
Yeah.
Good to see you. So audio production is two things. The ega, you're a musician, but the arga, you're an engineer. You're both. That's why this special. Because Jigasha art, Jigasha science. Hendoran, Taman, either this or that. But most people both, no. Most people both. So Jiga, Yodi Arnan. Wait, Shema, you gotta play piano, guitar, drums, but then need a math needs to be good at the same time. Okay? So what I teach is I'm going to teach both of these. So I have a degree in chemistry, Washwe.
Wow.
But I also have a degree in music. So I studied both of them. Yeah, I studied both of them, And so that's what it takes. That's what it takes to be a really good producer. Yeah, you need to understand like the song and how it's structured, but then you need to also understand when you record it, you need to understand the room. You need to understand the microphones. You need to understand the electrical equipment. You need to understand the software. So all of that's more technical. All right? So a person who's a producer is very valuable because you can bridge the gap between the artist and the business. Because the people that work in the office, they're more concerned about the business aspect of it. But the artists are more concerned about the creative aspect of it. The producer is the one that bridges that gap. Where he takes the artist and he goes, okay, yeah, those are great ideas, but we need to figure out a way that we're going to make some money off of this. And then you need to figure out how to actually make it. This right here, this is the factory. That's the factory on this side. Over here is design. Over here you have the artists, the composers, the musicians, the arrangers. These are people with ideas. But over here you have to figure out a way to turn all of those great ideas into an actual song. And you have to figure out how to do it. Oh, Chinso. Yeah. Chinso. You have to figure out a way to do it so that the business people aren't mad. Right? Because the accounting department, they're gonna have a budget. The artist is gonna say, hey, I want an entire orchestra. And then the business department is going, we can't afford the orchestra. So now you got to figure out how to get the artist that vision of an orchestra, but with the budget of the office. And so that's where the tech comes in, okay? So I'm going to teach both sides of this. Right? I'm going to teach both sides of this. And we'll flip our hat. At one point we're an artist, and then we'll flip it over, and then now we're going to be an engineer. And then we'll be an artist, right? And as we learn songwriting, we're going to learn theory, or we're going to talk about theory. But then I'm going to go, but if you're in the recording studio, you probably should do this. For example, Henshung. You can put chords together however you want to. But if you're going to sell, if you're planning on making money off of that recording, then there's probably the best way to do it. Right? So that's what's going to happen depending on what's going on. Okay? Yowantima. So when you go into production, make sure you know where you are. Make sure you know what side of this you're on. And then, Bunan. Okay. So let's break this down. This is going to be emotion. Everything starts with emotion. Why? Music is the expression of emotion. That's what music is. We make music because we're expressing emotion. And the really good bands are the ones that can make you feel how they feel. They write a love song so you feel love. Or they write a sad song so you feel sad. So the first step in creating music is you got to figure out what emotion you're trying to express. Are you writing a sad song? Are you writing a happy song? That is going to drive everything. That's going to drive this whole process. If you're writing a sad song, you may want violins. But if you're writing a happy song, you may want trumpets. So depending on the answer here, it's going to drive everything down. Then we're going to have something called a reference. And this is going to be just a song that already exists that we're going to use to guide our process. I'll talk more about that later. Then you have the composition. I messed up. Second are your lyrics. Then comes your reference. Then comes the composition. Then comes the arrangement. First, we're going to figure out what we're trying to express. Then we're going to write some poetry that expresses those emotions. Then we're going to find a reference, another song that kind of fits that. Then we're going to work on the composition. The composition really is just the melody and the chords, right? And the lyrics, melody, chords, and lyrics. It's like a lead sheet. Then we're going to work on the arrangement. The arrangement is the change of instruments in time. How do all of these instruments change over time? Okay? Once we got that, now we're ready to go to the factory. We're going to have, before we go to the factory, before we go to the recording studio, before we go to Logic Pro, before we go into FL Studio or Pro Tools or Cubase, We should have all of this before the DAW starts. Okay? Then we get over here. First thing is the performance. Before you record the song, you should practice it. You should probably practice it for 2 weeks. If you practice your new song for 2 weeks, you're ready to record it. If you just write it and you record it, mama hoo-hoo. You got to live with it for a while so that you can really feel it. Usually 2 weeks is good. You write a song, practice it for 2 weeks, then record it. It'll sound better. Okay? Then we have what we call tracking. This is the recording process. Tracking overdubs. Right? Then after that, we have mixing. Then we have mastering. Then we have packaging. Right? So tracking, when we're in the recording studio, this is where we're going to set up microphones on all of the instruments. Everybody's going to play. We're going to record it. Overdubs is when the vocalist records their vocals. Usually they listen to headphones with all the music on. And then they overdub or over-record their vocals on top of the rhythm track, right? Then we're going to mix it. This is your DAW. It's going to be Cubase, Logic Pro, plugins, compression, EQ. Then we're going to master it. Mastering is kind of tricky. Again, this is kind of a special thing. We'll talk about that. Then you got to make sure that when your record is done, if you're making a CD, jump in. If you're going to have like your lyrics, you got to make sure that all of that is taken care of before you go to the business unit. Because after this, you're going to go right into marketing. You're going to have these songs, you're going to have a CD, a completed CD, and then you're going to give it to the marketing team, and then they're going to go, okay, you guys, we got to go on tour, we got to make more posters, blah, 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 blah. So then the marketing team's going to take over. You don't want to go to the marketing team, here's my MP sign. They're going to go, well, I can't do nothing with an MP sign. It has to be packaged, whatever. Maybe you make a CD. Maybe you make an album. Maybe you make a video. Who knows how you package it? But you got to package it before the business unit can help you convert that music into money or a career or gigs or whatever it is you're trying to achieve. Okay? There's the process. Okay? And we're gonna go through each one of those items in detail. Okay? Probably the most important. The composition is probably the most important because, this whole process is going to go like this, then it's going to go like that, and then it's going to go like that. Right? We're literally just going to run down. But everything, all of this depends on that. And over here, Handoran. You got engineers here. You got musicians here. And all of your team, everyone's going to put in a lot of time. 20, 30, 40 hours. And everything depends on that song. If that's good, then it'll be worth it. But if that's bad, 40 hours, 50 hours, all just wasted. So you want to make sure that your composition is the best that it can be before you go to the factory. That way, your investment in time and money and resources will pay off. Otherwise, you run the risk of just wasting a lot of time, money, favors. You're always asking people, oh, can you help me? Can you help me? I can't tell you how many times I ask people, please help me, please help me, please help me, And so you want to make sure that it's worth it. So I'm going to spend a lot of time talking about this. Arranging, arranging is important, but not so difficult. This can be a little difficult to understand. All right. The stuff over here is just engineering. This is like cooking. It's like making food. Once you figure out how to do it, you do it every time. Once you learn how to make rice, you just put it in the rice, you put it in the rice cooker, put the water in, press the button. All right, you got it. That's how this is. Once you learn how to record vocals, that's how you do it. Once you learn how to record drums, for the most part, you're going to do it the same way. You're going to learn how to record drums for a jazz drummer, or you're going to learn how to record drums for a rock drummer. Once you figure out how to do it, that's what you do pretty much all the time. Once you record, you learn how to record upright bass, that's what you do. 2 microphones, a U47 and a U67. 40 inches from the F hole and about 40 inches from where their fingers are. You do that every time, you got it. It'll sound good. You can run into, some Neve pre's or U610 pre's. It'll sound good every time. Make sure the room is good. Once you got it, you got it. Okay? So this is difficult. This is probably the most difficult part. This, not so difficult. This, just a lot of information. Just a lot of information. It's like physics. Yeah, it's like physics class. You got to remember frequencies. You got to remember numbers. You got to remember decibels. You got to remember the order of do I compress or do I EQ, or should I EQ? Did I compress? It's just a recipe. It's just a recipe that you got to remember. A lot of information, but once you get it, you got it. Okay? That's audio production. I love it. Yeah, I love it. You can ask anybody. I love it. You know what I mean? Yawenti man. Yawenti. Okay, cool. Ciao Pian. Take a picture of this model, because this it very clearly lets you know what you should study and what you may have already learned. It may show you what's missing. This is a very exact model. It's very exact. There's no other element inside of here that you need to know. In other words, you learn all of this, you'll have a good career. You'll be of value. You'll be of value.
I have a question.
Yeah, what's up, Ron?
No, nowadays we have this sound design. I think sound design is missing here. Okay, so, yeah, should be like that.
And you're absolutely correct. You're absolutely correct. Yeah.
And I feel like the sound design, right here is just a something of arrangement. But nowadays, have these electronic players. They're just connecting all those stuff and things and add all together. They're actually connecting, composing, and engineering together, right?
Now, yeah, because I have to teach it, I have to decide upon some type of logical approach to teach it. But in the real world, yeah, you may be doing 2 of these at the same time or 3 of these at the same time, right? You may be multi-processing. Some people write lyrics while they're writing the melody, right? Okay, that's okay. That's fine. But for me, I have the problem of how do I teach that? So I have to separate all of those components out into individual, and then I have to line those individual components up in some type of logical fashion. Because if I went, okay, we're going to do all of this at the same time, you guys are going to start asking questions like, what do I do first? And which one comes first? And do I do that? And do I do that? So I chose this model because it really kind of pulls apart all of those elements. But in the real world, once you get going, you're probably going to be doing all of this more or less at the same time, right? But we're going to study all of these parts individually. Then it'll optimize your process of doing everything at the same time. But you're right. The sound design typically is going to come in after you compose. But some people, they create sounds, and then based upon the sound that they created, they create a song based upon that song. Oh, that's okay too. Yeah, that's cool too, right?
A quick question.
Yes.
So you mentioned about the engineering requires a lot of like a human, like engineers to help you, right? But for us, maybe we cannot afford a big team. Is that possible? That part with the technology, like new stuff, we can do that in a bedroom, right? Like a bedroom stuff.
Right. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna provide you with enough information so that you can do it yourself. Yeah. I'll provide you with enough information so that you can do it. If you got a laptop and it's pretty powerful, you'll be able to do all of this stuff yourself. And I'll tell you the plugins to get. I'll tell you, I'll tell you exact plugins to get. Go to Taobao, get it for a quad, okay? I'm going to tell you how to do it on a budget. Right, But I'm also, at the same time, I'm going to show you how we do it here with a big team. So you can see what it's like to work with a big team. But you'll also have the ability to do it with your laptop. Hopefully, that whole process is going to grow. You can start with your laptop, write some songs, and then maybe you get a friend, and you guys work together, and then you get another friend. Then maybe you get a band, and then you got to figure out how to record the band, right? And maybe you got 2 microphones, and then you guys make money, and so now you can go to the recording studio. So we're gonna try and set you up so that you can go from here to there, so that you can see how it's done in the studio, but also you can do it with your laptop. I remember I started with Cubase. I remember I'm in my bedroom with Cubase going, what is all of this? Working it out, trying to figure it out. So we'll go through that whole process. How y'all went, Tima? How y'all? Good? All right, let's get started. So I'm going to start here. And slowly we're going to incorporate these elements up here. Then after that, we'll hit arrangement, and then we'll go over to the engineering side of it. Now, we have limited time today. Yeah, we only got a couple of hours. Typically, I need to teach this over 1, ideally 2 semesters. If I have 2 semesters, then I can really prepare everyone really well for most of the things that they're gonna, you're gonna encounter when you get into the real world. Okay. Let me get the eraser, Jimmy. Okay, so let's start with composition. Because that's the thing that's really gonna if you look at it from a business point of view, and that's the other thing. There's another element that a producer is. A producer is really concerned about the business. A company is going to hire a producer to get the job done. So the other element that the producer or audio production is like, how are we going to make sure that this thing is going to be profitable for whoever hired you? And so you got to be thinking kind of from a practical point of view as well, right? Again, if you're an artist, you can do whatever you want to do in terms of creativity, right? I know a lot of things, a lot of crazy things with music theory that are really, really cool and very, very interesting. But I also know the part of music theory that's going to sell. And so as a producer, you got to separate those two things together. It's very simple. If somebody hires you for a job and they expect that record to sell, if it sells, you'll have a job. If it doesn't sell, you don't have a job. It's just that simple. It's just that simple. That's the hard reality of it. And so you need to, if you're going to be a producer, you need to figure out, what is it about music that people like? Why are some songs successful and other songs aren't? What are those elements in a song? You know the answers to all these, right? I've had him for a student for, what, a year? 2 semesters. 2 semesters. So a lot of information I've already passed on to him, so he knows the answer to a lot of stuff. But what is it about, like, How did the Beatles write songs for 30 years and they kept writing hit records? But other people write songs and they get one song that's good and then nobody pays attention to them. Why do we still listen to Mozart and Beethoven? It's been hundreds of years, but we still listen to those songs. As a producer, those are the questions we want to answer. Okay? So the answer comes from this. Shakespearean analysis. And there's a guy by the name of, or there was a guy, 1868, Heinrich Schenker. He was a German guy. He was a German, my English is terrible now. German, he was Jewish. He was a German guy he was a Jewish guy in Germany back in 1868. He was a smart dude. I think he was an asshole, but he was a smart guy. We're all adults. I'm from New York, so from time to time. He was a smart guy. And what he did was he analyzed all of the compositions by the greatest German composers. And he found out their secret. He found out how they all compose. They all use the exact same method of composition. Then he put it in a book. And he started writing books and publishing around 1920. He wrote a lot of different books, right? But the main book was the book on Shakespearean analysis. But there was a problem. And the problem was the rise of the Nazi Party in Germany. So he figured out what all the German composers were doing, and he wrote it in the book, and the Nazis burned his book. They were like, you're not telling nobody this. But he had several students, and those students went to New York around the 1920s. Chabdo. And his theory, Shakespearean theory, those students taught at Harvard, Yale, Stanford. They started teaching that theory at all the Ivy League schools in America. And so this theory is one of the pillars or one of the foundations of American music. American music has like strong influences from various parts of the globe. Like the rhythm comes from West Africa. The music theory comes from Europe. But the music theory really comes from this guy. Right? In terms of, and I'm talking about writing songs that people are going to love. So this is very important because the information was never supposed to leave Germany. But it did. And what's going on in New York City in 1920? Jazz. So this theory is embedded in jazz. You look at jazz tunes, they all have the same architecture. All of the tunes. From Duke Ellington straight up to like Wayne Shorter and all of the post-bop, jazz. But you look at classical music has the same structure. So, here's something interesting. Jazz is really just modern classical music. That's all that jazz is. It's classical music, but it's a modern version of it, where the rhythm was innovated, right? And the harmony was really pushed, right? So instead of chords looking like this, right? It's a C major chord, right? Jazz guys are playing stuff like that, right? They're just extending it. So instead of playing E, San, Wu, they're going to play Chi, Jiu, Shi, Shi, San. The jazz guys are going to play all of those upper parts of the chords, but the German composers were concerned about that. So jazz is just the innovation. Jazz is like classical music version 2.0. That's all it is. Why is that important? One of the common elements of all of the great jazz composers and performers is they all have a foundation in classical music. So Duke Ellington, he played classical music as a kid. Bud Powell, Art Tatum, Oscar Peterson. Watch yourself. Hold up. What's up, bro? All of the great jazz musicians all know classical music very well. So if you want to be a great jazz musician, you have to study classical music to do it. Even Charlie Parker. You know, they said Charlie Parker was walking around Harlem with a book of Stravinsky under his arm. One of the reasons Charlie Parker was so good was because he was studying like Stravinsky, the scores of Stravinsky. And modern, there's a family called the Marsalis brothers. Wynton Marsalis, Bradford Marsalis. These guys are like jazz legends. They're still alive today. They can play, oh my God, they play so good. Wynton Marsalis, who is a jazz trumpet player, one of the best in the world, he got his degree from Juilliard, but he got his degree in classical trumpet playing. He has a degree in classical performance, but he plays jazz. So remember that link. Don't think of classical music and jazz as being like two separate musics. Actually, they're not. They're linked together, and one is just sort of an evolution of the other. It's just a modern version of it, right? So, when we study composition, we're going to be looking at a lot of classical pieces. We're going to be looking at Beethoven and Bach. And then I'm going to go, hey, look at this jazz standard. Why? Because this jazz standard is like doing exactly the same concepts. You know what I mean? And, I'm going to put it, and the Beatles, and Stevie Wonder, and Elton John, and on, the Eagles, and all of these great bands that have made music, the Rolling Stones, for a long time, they all know this. So this is the, as a producer, how do I write a song that's going to make the accounting department happy? No Shakirian analysis. This is going to help you. This is going to help you not only with the business side of it, but in terms of creativity, it's going to open your creativity up. It's going to free you to compose some of the most amazing, amazing music you've ever heard. Okay, so now what the hell is it? It's this. The first thing is, if I draw that, this is true. Shabasha. It has this, it has that, and it has that. Shabasha. Your melody has the same thing, right? Your melody has three perspectives to it, or three levels, right? Another way that we can look at that is we'll call it levels. So I'm going to say E-low, R-low, San-low. What I'm talking about is E-low, R-low, San-low. Jadalama? Okay? In other words, when you look at a melody, there's levels to that melody, right? For example, first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take that. It's a C triad. Shabasha. Just a C triad. I'm going to call it the 1 chord. Okay? So, step 1, triad. Right? Then, step 2, I'm going to add passing tones. Right? Now, we know the triad is E, San, Wu. Now, you see this thing? Whenever you see that, I'm talking about the theme. Whenever you see E, san, wu. E, san, wu. So now I'm going to put E, san, wu in here. Here's E, or wu. Here's san. And here's E. So what I did was I did this. I took this, and I went like this with it. I went, ga, 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 ga. Shibba. I just stretched it out. And do you see another color?
No, it's black.
Black? 等一会儿，我要 let me go get some colors. 不好意思。Okay, so now I'm going to add some passing tones in here. Here's my passing tones. Passing tone is going to be 4. Passing tone is going to be 2. Right? Pretty simple, right? Now, step 3, I'm going to add some chords. Henshun. Right? Right? And maybe I'll come down here. Maybe I'll come down here and add the chords, right? This way we can make it kind of interesting. Now watch what I do. I'm going to double each one of those. Then I'm going to double this one. Then I'm going to double this one. Then I'll double this one. Woo, up. So. Up. Put woo over here. Woo, so. San, R, E. But I'm going to make each one of those one measure. Right? Wu, so, san, R, E. Okay? Cool? Now we put some chords in here. From G to F is a whole step. So I can do 13 to 9. From F to E is a half step. So maybe I'll do 11 to 7. From E to D is a whole step. So maybe I'll do another 13, 9. And then from D to C is a whole step. So maybe I'll do a 5 to 1. Right? And maybe I'll start with the 5. All right, here's the music theory. G is the 5th of C. So I'm going to start with a C major. I know that F is the 9 of E flat. So maybe I'll do, this is a 5 chord, that's the 1 chord. I know that E is the major 7 of F. So maybe I'll play an F minor major. And I'll make this a C, 7, flat 9, flat 13. And we'll get into all of this. I know that D is the 9 of C. So maybe we'll make this a C major 9. And make this a E flat, F over G. And then we're coming home, so maybe here I'll do a D minor to a G7 to a C to finish it off. Okay? F is the 9 of E flat. E is the major 7 of F. I could probably pull that off, yeah. D is the 9 of C, and then a 2-5-1. So now let's see what that sounds like. And I gotta play this thing backwards. So I know that I started with this. I started with the triad. Right? Then I added passing tones in between there. Right? Pretty simple. Right? Then I doubled it. Then I added chords over the top of it, right? So I'm gonna build chords off the top note. Let me see where I'm at. So I'm going to E flat 9. So I'm playing this to this to this. Then I'm playing an E7, or I'm playing what is that? What did I put down? A C7. I'm gonna play because I got the F there. Let me change that chord right there. I got that thing wrong. It should be a G7 to a C minor. To a C minor with a major. There. Right. So we got this to this to this to this, and then maybe I'll go here. Let me see. E should be C major. Then I'll play this down to that, and then right over there. Right. So we get something like this. Right? So that is the basis of how classical composers are composing, as well as the jazz cats. Right? And this is what's behind a lot of the greatest songs you've ever heard before. This is what's behind a Mozart tune. Or a Beethoven tune. Da 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 da. There's always this backbone behind the melody that holds it together. Whether it's Beethoven or whether it's the Eagles' Hotel California. There's always this step. There's always these notes behind the melody. They're more important than all the other notes. It's the backbone that holds the melody together. So your melody isn't just this series of notes that just go on and you're playing across the chord. No. There's a backbone behind the melody holding it together. And so you get this. So now if we look at this, we have this, and that's the theme, right? And we know that that is Wu, Sa, San, Re. Above the theme, we have this. That's the 1 chord. There's the flat 7 chord. Here's the flat 3rd chord. Here's the 5 chord. Here's the 1 chord. Here's the 5 chord, here's the 1 chord, and then I did a 2-5-1 here. Look at that. Hey, Sida Sha'ilo. Lansada Sha'arlo. There's 2 levels to this thing. You see? Jigga Shajigga. But Jigga Shajigga. And then this is the actual melody that you carve out. You got it?
Question.
Yes.
What's the meaning of this one? 951.
Very good. So if I spell, let's start here. I chose a 5. And this is what I compose. I'm not really concerned about the chords. I'm concerned about that interval. Because those numbers really make you feel a particular way. So that number is going to make you feel happy. It's going to make you feel sad. It's going to make you feel different. So if my melody note is C, if I make it 1, it sounds like this. Right? And that right, it's a happy sound. But if I make that a flat 5, we get this. Look at that. So that's more dark. It's much more dark. It makes you feel a different way, right? But I can make that a 9. That's right. It's kind of like a party, right? Right? But I could also make that a major 7. So I go do do do. You see that? So that number inside the circle is the key. That's how you're going to control the emotion. And what that number is this. You're going to have 2 parts, right? I got the note G, and I got a 5. So if I spell C, E, G, look, G is the 5th of C. So I made that note the 5th. Therefore, the chord is, another way to look at it is this. G is the 5th. G is the 5th of C major. G is the 5th of C major. Right? Then here, I got another G. G is the 13th of B flat. G is the 13th of B flat. Right? Now I have an F. F is the 9th of E flat. I have another F here, and these I changed up. I did a 7th ring. Got it wrong. That's an F. F is the flat 7 of G. So the chord becomes G. And then I put an E here. E is the 3rd of C. Jadalama? So I'm not thinking chords. That's okay. Here's a very important concept that you should adopt. Composers are going to think different than players. A lot of piano players or guitar players, they're just thinking about the chord. But the composer is concerned about one note and the different intervals that you can make that one note. And then you get the chord. So the composer is thinking about the melody and the chord at the same time. The composer doesn't think, I got this chord, I have this melody, or I have this melody and here's that chord. Your composer is going to be thinking about the chord and the melody all at the same time. Right? Because that's really the melody, and because of this interval, it generates a chord. I'm concerned about both of those things. I have a G, I want to make it the 5th, so I get C. I have a G, I want to make it the 13th, so I get a B flat. I have a G and I want to make it the flat 5, so I get a D flat chord. You see? So I'm thinking of a note, I'm thinking of one note and all the different chords that could go across that one note, right? Here's the root, here's the 3rd, here's the 5th, and here's the 9th, right? And here's a flat 5, and here's a 13, and then we got a major 7, and back to 1. So I'm thinking about one note and all the different chords that I can hang on that one note. And then I'm going to push that note to the next note, and then I'm going to do it again. So look what happens. On that one note, there's 100 different chords that I can hang on that one note. 100 different chords. Then when I get to that note, there's 100 different chords that I can hang on that one different note. Look at how, from a composing point of view, look how powerful that is. You're no longer concerned about key. Like the concept of what key or what scale I'm in, all of that's gone now. You're at another level up. Because if I take that C, I can start to play chords that aren't related to one another. You know, say I'm in the key of C. Right? So all of a sudden, I don't know, I could play a D flat chord right there. And I could go from D flat to A minor. And I could go from A minor to A flat. And I could go to G11. Right? And then I could go right to E flat. Because I got that one note that's the focus of the melody, I can play all types of chords across that one note. Any chord, any key, anywhere. So now your composition is just completely open up. You know? And remember, we use the C triad here. But a lot of this stuff isn't necessarily in C. Even though we have a C triad as our backbone, the chords over the top of it don't need to be in C. They can be in any key. So now your compositions are wide open. You can start to do stuff like Mozart and Bach and Beethoven and Thelonious Monk and John Coltrane and Pat Metheny and blah, 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 blah. Okay? So that's what the Nazis didn't want you to know. They didn't want you to know. All right, let's do it again.
Quick question.
Yes.
Yeah. So you actually just stretch or duplicate those notes, and is that just trying to simplify the whole process, or it always goes like this?
No. The line can be bent in any shape. You can move the line up or you can move it down. So yes, I explained it like this. I use this particular model so that I can be clear with the basic concept. But this line can go up and down and do all types of crazy stuff. You get what? It can be any shape. It can, you can move the line if you wanted to. You could move the line this way. Right? You can move the line this way. See, I'm moving it up. And then maybe we'll do wait, so wait. See? So I moved it up. And then So you can move it, you can move that line both up and down, right? But what's really interesting is I'm not thinking about the chords, I'm thinking about that line. That is what's missing from a lot of students who try to write a song. They're busy putting chords together, but they have no line holding all of the chords together. In other words, tamen zai arlo, tamen bujidao ilo. But ilo, most important. Elo is going to free you up to play so many more different types of chords. You see? So remember, chords are not the lowest level. There's a level below the chords. Hey, hi. There's a level below the chords. And the level below the chords is the theme. So that's really the message of today's lesson. Realize that there's a theme behind all of the greatest melodies. And the theme holds it all together. If you write chords and you're trying to build a melody but you have no theme, yeah, there's gonna be something missing. Or you're gonna go, oh, Tainanla. Bunan, just male elo. You put elo in there, then all of a sudden it's easy. Okay? Alright, so let's do it again. No, 可以轻松。So you're going to just build it one level at a time. No, again, like my good friend said, in the real world, you're not going to go elo, arlo, sanlo. Once you understand what's going on, you're going to be working on multiple levels at the same time. And so it's going to seem like you're just doing everything at the same time. But I have to teach it in some type of logical fashion. So I'm going to teach you elo, arlo, sanlo. And I recommend that you build it that way until you get comfortable with it. Then you'll just be doing everything all at the same time. Okay? Okay. So again, elo. Triad. It can be major or minor. If my triad is C minor, I'm sort of in the key of C. If my triad is F major, I'm sort of in the key of F. Sort of. Sort of in the key of F. If my triad is B flat, I'm sort of in the key of B flat. Sort of. Right? All right, so here we go. We got the one chord. Right? Step 2. I'm going to add passing tones. Right? So here, Wu, flat san, E. And all I did was I took the triad, I just stretched it out. 这个是非常好听，所以这个也是非常好听。If that sounds good, then that also sounds good, because it's the same thing. So that becomes a very, very strong foundation to build your song. That's the trick. What the Germans did was they thought about a chord not this way. They thought about the chord that way. That's clever.